In this video, I'm going to give you my opinion of the Honda CMX1100 Rebel. All up, I've had the Rebel for about a month or so, which I think is a decent amount of time to have a well-rounded opinion of the bike. First off, I really like it, and I didn't think I would. Having seen all of Honda's marketing material on the bike, it looks like it's pitched at a less discerning, more corporate city-type person. But yeah, I got it wrong. So in this video, I'm going to go into some detail about the bike and what I think about it, and then I'm going to give you my honest pros and cons on it. The Honda CMX1100 is part of the Rebel series, which was introduced in 2021 as the more powerful sibling to the CMX500. Building on the Rebel legacy, which dates back to the 1980s with the original Rebel 250. In the States, they also get the CMX1100 Rebel. Worth mentioning here that we also had the CMX500 on loan from Honda while we had this one. I rode the 500 but had to give it to Lana to review because I was just too big for it. Since its debut, the bike has remained largely unchanged. The engine on the CMX1100 is a 1084cc parallel twin, adapted from Honda's Africa Twin adventure bike. While the Africa Twin produces around 101 horsepower and 112 newton meters of torque for adventure riding, the CMX1100 is detuned to deliver about 86 horsepower and 98 newton meters of torque, offering a smoother, more relaxed power delivery for cruising. Transmission on this bike is 6-speed and it's got a fairly light clutch. Honda also do a dual clutch transmission option for this bike, which I'd be keen to try as I've never tried it. My understanding is the dual clutch transmission is an automatic transmission with no clutch that lets you switch to sort of manual if you want. I really like quiet bikes and I really like the exhaust note on this bike. If I owned the bike, I'd definitely keep the standard exhaust. The CMX1100 is a comfortable bike, especially for taller riders like me. At 6'1" with long arms and legs, I found the 700mm seat height and mid-control ergonomics suited me well. I really like cruiser style riding, and the riding position on this bike is perfect for me. I have no issues with feeling cramped, which I can do on some bikes. However, when Lana, who's 5'4.5", tried it, she said that the reach was too long and it was uncomfortable for her. The bike weighs 223 kilograms wet, and I've heard some riders say that it feels heavy, but it wasn't an issue for me because the weight's down low. Maybe they're used to smaller size bikes, or probably aren't as big as me. One of the common complaints from owners on this bike is that the seat's uncomfortable, but I actually really liked it. It's soft, and it took a lot of the bumpiness out of the ride for me. Honda does offer an aftermarket wider seat, which I might consider if I own the bike for more long distance comfort. While we're on accessories, it's worth noting that Honda do a great range for this bike, so you can really make it your own. The suspension has preload adjustable 43mm front forks and twin rear shocks. I wound the preload all the way off to the softest setting on both front and rear, which I like the most. If I owned the bike, I'd change the springs because they're probably set up for a lighter rider than me. I weigh 95 kilograms and I usually upgrade the springs on my bikes to stiffer ones so they're not blowing through the travel so much when I'm riding around. The ground clearance on this bike is 120mm. I didn't scrape the pegs or my feet once when I was riding around, so it's high enough. Some cruisers so low I'm scraping my boots a lot, particularly on roundabouts. Now, while the rider's seat worked for me, the pillion seat is a different story. It's honestly there as an absolute worst case scenario if you need to give someone a lift. My wife sat on it briefly and she said it was the worst seat she'd ever sat on. So, if you're thinking about doing long 2-up trips, this probably isn't the bike for that. One of the standout aspects of the CMX1100 is its versatility. You can ride the bike in a relaxed cruiser style, which it does exceptionally well, but if you want to open it up and ride aggressively, It has the power and the agility to deliver. If you're looking to do a lot of motorway miles on the CMX1100, you'll want a windshield because without one, you'll be blowing around a lot. One thing I have got is bruises on both my legs from bashing my shins against the foot pegs when I was moving the bike around. Never really could get used to or probably remember where they were on the bike, but I'm sure if I owned the bike, my brain would eventually remember. The CMX1100 comes equipped with some impressive modern technology for a cruiser at this price point. One of the standout features is the selectable riding modes, which include standard, sport, rain, and user. I loved how the engine delivered the power in the standard mode. It struck the perfect balance for me, offering smooth throttle response without being too aggressive. I did try sport, and while it gives you a more direct and punchy throttle response, if I'm being frank, standard was the best mix of everything for my riding style. Cruise control is also fitted as standard to this bike, which is good for motorway riding. There's also a USB socket under the seat. It's good that it's got one, but I do find this location less than ideal, as you have to access it by lifting the seat, making it a bit inconvenient accessing your phone on the go. The toolkit's also fitted under there. The fuel tank holds 13.6 litres and you can expect a range of about 160 miles, depending on how aggressively you ride. Not great for long trips, but fine if you're using the bike for just cruising around. I actually really love how the CMX1100 handles. It's fun and relaxed to cruise around on, but if you want to get a wriggle on, it's very rewarding. For a cruiser, it's incredibly responsive and easy to maneuver, thanks in part to its low seat height and low centre of gravity. The brakes are excellent, featuring a 330mm floating disc up front and a 256mm disc at the rear with ABS as standard. The bike rolls on 16-inch wheels both front and rear. Tyres were fine by me, and I'm not a tyre expert and not at all fussy about the tyres that are fitted to my bike, but the tyres were fine for me. We produced a video on what CMX1100 owners' top 7 likes and top 7 dislikes were on this bike, and one of them was a limited turning circle. I didn't find it was an issue though, and thought it actually wasn't too bad. I think the bike looks brilliant in all of our content, and I really enjoyed looking at it from far away. The satin finish on the bike looks great, and the bike feels solid. But when you start looking at it up close, you see a lot of plastic covers covering things here and there, which I didn't like and I know won't be to everyone's taste. Build quality on the CMX1100 switchgear is lovely. Great high quality feel to them. Metal mudguards front and rear, really good quality. The CMX1100 has a really low price point, which makes it an attractive option if you're into cruisers, and Honda has managed to pack a lot of features and performance into this package. In terms of warranty, Honda offers a standard 2-year warranty with the bike, and of course there's the added confidence that comes with Honda's proven reliability. Alright, so here's my pros and cons list. For the money, the CMX1100 has a lot going for it. The engine on this bike is so fun to ride, and it can have multiple personalities by using the various rider modes. It's also a very efficient power plant. I just mentioned rider modes, but there's cruise control, ABS, and the optional dual clutch transmission that really sets it apart from its competitors. I actually really like the stealthy look of the bike, and it looks great in the photos if you're into taking photos of you with your bike. The stock suspension is very good right out of the box, and I like that it has adjustable preload front and rear, which is not common for these type of bikes. The sound of the exhaust is great, and I like a quiet bike, and I definitely wouldn't change that. The controls feel solid and high quality, making the riding experience more enjoyable. Despite what some riders say, I found the seat comfortable, even on longer rides. Right, so onto the cons. The size of the bike might not suit every rider. Shorter riders might struggle with its longer reach. The pillion seat is only really suitable for short trips, and even then, it's not ideal. While it's great to have a USB socket, the placement under the seat makes it difficult to access. When you look at the bike in detail, there are plastic covers all over the place, which sort of takes away from the premium feel a little. The fuel tank range is on the lower side on this bike, which might be a downside for those planning longer rides without frequent stops. There's not much in the way of wind protection for highway use, but Honda does offer a great range of accessories, including windscreens, which can help that. Alright, so here's my conclusion. Overall, I think the CMX CMX1100 Rebel is a great bike for the money. It's a bike that looks fantastic, both in our content and in person, and I found myself enjoying just looking at it when it was parked up, which is always a good sign. For those looking for a cruiser with modern features, a powerful engine, and flexibility in the way you can ride it, the big Rebel really delivers. Sure, it's not for everyone, but for the right rider, it's an incredibly enjoyable machine.